And we're live. Welcome, my kings and queens above 18. This is a nice place to brew. It is March 18th, 2021. We do the webcast here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We do an audio podcast under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew, that's available on all the podcasting platforms. Our website is www.aniceplacetobrew.com. Our social media links are Nice Place to Brew and A Nice Place to Brew. And our YouTube page has all of our past episodes under the name A Nice Place to Brew. Go down to the video section, check us out. If you can't tune in here with each Thursday with us, I got a text right when that came in. Sorry, that broke me. But we have quite a back catalog. So if you have a chance between Thursday episodes, check us out.
Okay.
Also, like and subscribe on our YouTube page.
Please
yes,
and thank you.
It does great things for us.
And also on Facebook if that's your preferred medium. But
yes.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody. Mm-hmm. George, sporting the Back to the Future T-shirt. It's a good time already.
Yeah, it is, and I'm set up this way because hopefully shortly a buddy of mine will be joining us who's an associate brewer at a local brewery and be able to give us some details on what he learned there, because this guy jumped straight from zero to professional brewing, so I'm sure he's got some stories about how that worked for him.
I'm very much looking forward to it. This is also a momentous episode because this is the first Virginia brewery that we've had on the webcast, is it not?
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
First Virginia brewery.
Yeah. So, took a little while, but we got there.
We did. Yeah, hopefully not the last, though.
Yes.
We've had some representation from Virginia brewers in the audio podcast, which you guys should also check out.
Yes.
But as far as the webcast, this will be the first one.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Paulie should be joining us momentarily as well. Mm-hmm. He's had quite a week at the brewery. And I think we will be talking in great detail about that once he's able to join us.
Okay.
But until that time, George, what are you drinking tonight?
I got to go get it because I was busily setting up in this somewhat unusual setup for me.
Okay.
But I've got a cider sangria from a local cidery called Coyote Hole.
Okay.
So, yeah. What about yourself?
I have ciders in the fridge right now.
Okay.
And I was tempted to grab one, and last minute I was like, you know what? I need something with a little more flavor, a little more character. So I grabbed a double IPA instead. So I can go through a description if you want to run to the fridge. I will
Sure.
hold the fort down.
Okay.
Cool?
Yep. Give me a minute.
Right. So the beer I'm drinking tonight is from Pipeworks here in Chicago. This is a beer called Unicorn Park. This is a hazy double India Pale Ale with mosaic hops, cryo mosaic hops, lactose, vanilla, raspberries, and blueberries. Needless to say, it's got a lot going on. Check this out. Not exactly what you'd normally picture as a double IPA, but a fruity double IPA nonetheless. It is tasty. It's not overly hoppy. It's not overly fruity. It balances out surprisingly well. And for that, I'll give it a good mark. I will say that I have not eaten much tonight. So this 8.5% 16-ounce can may be causing me some pain by the end of this webcast. So stay tuned with us and we shall see. All right. Perfect timing.
Yeah. So, one thing Coyote Hole does a bunch of things really well, but one of the things they do really well is their can artwork. All of it is really interesting, not overly produced or anything like that. This is called Sister Sangria, and you can kind of see it there.
That is really nice can art.
Right? Yeah, it's from there's a place called Lake Anna, very popular, especially with the DC crowd comes down. And so they're located there. Have been for, I think, a little over a year now. It's a 5.5% sweet cider. So
nice.
Yeah.
I will get some links out here shortly. There's
Okay.
one thing related to home brewing that I want to talk about,
Okay.
and we could do it now. Now's a good time.
Sure.
I have not brewed anything since the last webcast, but I did get my judging results from a recent home brewing competition.
Oh yeah. How'd that go?
Yes. And just some background for everybody. I made a Baltic Porter in November before it got really, really cold here in the Midwest. No, that's not an accident. Number one, Baltic Porter is a great style for the wintertime.
It is.
And it does build character over time, as many high gravity beers do. So, some appeal there with that. And knowing, of course, that the March competitions were still several months off, the timing was pretty good because it had plenty of time to ferment, age in a keg, carbonate, all that stuff. All those character notes would all be there by the time the competitions came around. So I'm like, this is perfect. So I did, submitted it for the competition, and my thinking was all in the right places with this. I'm sad to say I did not take home an award for this beer, but I feel pretty good about the critiques that my beer got. And what I'm hoping to do now is I'm going to share for everyone watching the webcast my score sheets.
Ooh. Okay.
Yes. All right. So before I do that, I'm going to here. I have this mostly ready. It wasn't. Let me do one thing before I hit share. Okay, now we're ready. Drum roll, please. All right, is that coming through all right?
It is. Let me do one thing, but keep
Okay.
talking. Go ahead.
So this is the Drunk Monk competition here in the Midwest. It's one of the largest. They get, on a non-COVID year, I think like 400 to 500 entries. They did have to scale it back this year, as most homebrew competitions have had to. But they got about as close to, the quote-unquote normal that that one would expect.
Sure.
I feel very good about what they did. So, cheers to the Urban Knaves of Grain for putting on this competition and for doing it well, and for liking my beer. I can't leave that out.
Let's see. You got 33.
Yeah,
That's not bad. That's
out
good.
of 50. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that.
I think they say
right, so
anything over 30 is really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So you have high malt character, low yeast character, and low hops character. I mean, Baltics can have a little bit higher of a hop character, but good.
Yeah. Keep going down.
Yeah, low roast, no hop or fermentation issues. Appearance, 3 out of 3. Nothing really, no problems there. You cleaned your bottles.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Flavor, heavy on the malty.
I don't know if that's a critique or an observation. It is a malt forward beer, so
No,
fitting.
that's good for the style, man.
Yeah.
That's really good. So deep malty beer with dark fruit dominant with, what does that say? Oh, prune, raisin. Okay. You could increase some of the chocolate coffee. I would expect that in the style. Sweet and under attenuated. Now, have you caught that on this one before? Is you think it's under?
I think that is a fair critique. I think the final gravity was a little above 1020. And if you
Okay.
remember all the issues that I had brewing this beer and fermenting it, that part wasn't totally unexpected. I was hoping it wouldn't be as. I was hoping under attenuated wasn't going to be quite their critique, but it's a fair one.
Yeah, 1020 is a little high for a Baltic Porter. You might want to look into, and we haven't done this. I think Polly does it at the brewery, but you and I haven't done it, is direct oxygen infusion, because you've had more than one beer that has had attenuation issues.
You know, it's so funny you should mention that because you're right. I have, and I don't quite know what to attribute that to. Like, I've got temperature control. I'm watching my sanitation. I make starters. These are all the go-to things that should result in a healthy fermentation.
Yeah, they are. How long do you leave your starter on?
At least 24 hours, sometimes as much as 2.5 days.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're doing all the right things now.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not something that we've done before, but doing some, just having an oxygen bubbler and bubbling some oxygen through can really help to kickstart that yeast, make it, produce some nice healthy yeast, and maybe cut down on some of that attenuation.
So that is a good point because, yeast is going to use up all the nutrients and all the sugars that it, has access to. Do you think that could be an issue? Is it just running? Is the oxygen just all getting chewed up and there's just not, the yeast doesn't have enough to go on?
Yeah, I wonder if, because we, in a fermenter, you try to limit your headspace and limit your contamination and everything. So once you get rid of any of the absorbed oxygen in the system, you're essentially running anaerobic, which is not where yeast want to be. So the longer you can go in the process without hitting that anaerobic state, the better off that you will be. And if I remember correctly, you had to create a ginormous starter with this. Is that...
I did. I had like a gallon. A gallon mason jar.
Gallon mason jar.
I don't know if it was maybe a half gallon, but it was
Right.
It was huge. And we also talked with this style, because it's a lager and it's a high gravity beer. What many people do is they will brew something a week before just to and just have that fermented beer be basically the starter for the higher
Right.
gravity one.
Right. Let it ferment down.
Right.
Make something that's like 1050.
Yep.
Let it ferment down and then use that.
Yep.
Um,
Rack off of the yeast cake, leave the yeast cake behind, and then move it on top of it. Move the new beer on top of it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about and I'm not sure if it would help with your meads that you've been having problems with too, is if you infused a little bit of oxygen into there, what that would do.
Wow, that's a heck of an idea. This is ringing a lot of bells for me. So no, thank you for this.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right, so moving on. Mouthfeel. You have big chewy body, but also sweet, low carbonation, but that might have been because of the lower fill. Did you fill it up to the neck?
So take a look at that. I did not notice this, but I'm sure it's accurate. You see this?
And yeah. Phil noticed the bottle had about an inch lower. I wonder if did you have a lot of, when you filled it, if you remember, did you have a lot of carbonation at the top?
So I remember the first bottle or two that I filled did. And I do remember purging the keg. Probably not right before I filled the first bottle, but before the second one. It's probably the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if you had like the foam at the top and then it settled down and then you had less, because that's going to cut down on your carbonation too. Okay,
Yeah.
That's interesting. All right. Hey, Polly.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Polly, what's
up,
going on?
Jason? Sorry for my
going,
tardy. Sorry for
all
my
good.
tardiness. I had to get my control panel looked at today.
Nice. I have a lot of questions about what you've gone through this week. We are going through my judging sheet from Drunk Punk.
I've seen that, and I like the new layout of it. This is
Isn't it
really,
nice?
it's
different.
really cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is something I can print up myself, because we're going to be doing a homebrew competition here, and it's a hell of a lot easier to read than the old one. I'll tell you that.
I wonder, is this the new BJCP?
It must be.
Or is this a
Reggie.
ju-
That's the website that
Reggie?
this was built around.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, so mouthfeel, you did all right. 3 out of 5 on that. Overall, 7 out of 10. Nice start to the style, but some small tweaks to improve. Need to dry out the beer. Okay. So, the other thing that I was wondering about, because if you remember when we did we talked about it. You weren't a part of it, but when we talked about the Brute IPA, when we
Yes.
did that, one of the things I added, and I don't think I'm trying to remember when this was added, was glucoamylase. When you have a stuck fermentation like that, I wonder if you could add in some glucoamylase to help to break down some of those starches and everything and convert them into sugars for the yeast to attack. I don't know how effective that would be.
I guess if you ruled out the oxygen piece, then I think that would be something to look at.
Yeah, Polly, do you do you oxygenate? Do you have like a Carbstone, an oxygen stone in your?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Actually, if you look, hold on, I'll show you. I'm sitting right next to one. See that right down? Oh, see right down there behind me, the valve? It's my Carbstone going right into my fermenter. So what I've been doing is at first, when I first started doing, is I had a little contraption I would inline oxygenate. But then after talking to the guys from Mad Hatchet, they were telling me what they do. And what they do is once everything gets in the tank, they just hook up to that Carbstone and they oxygenate that way. And I've been doing it that way. It's so much easier, especially if you have like a stuck screen, which now I don't, because I don't use those stupid screens anymore. As they call them, the hot blockers. I call it the wort blocker, because when it gets clogged, Jason can attest to this. It's like a 3-hour transfer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, so you just hook it up to your Carbstone and run it. How long do you run run it for?
10 to 15 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
20.
Okay.
Just depends, like usually I'll just run until I start seeing, till the whole tank gets pressure and I start seeing bubbles coming out of my blow off tube. And then after that, I let it go for about 5 more minutes, and then I know it's good. And then I vent it and pitch the yeast and call it a day.
Okay.
And clean up and go get a beer or go home.
So are you seeing? So, did you do that on a homebrew scale? Did you oxygenate your beer that way?
No, what I did on a homebrew scale is like, at least at Brew and Grow, we had like, Jason had one. It was like we saw a little bitty, like 200 micron essential Carbstone, and we hook it up to a regulator, and I just drop that bad boy. Oh, my silks are here. I might have to walk away for a second, but I just hook it up to Carbstone, let it bubble for 5 minutes, and then I transfer and pitch the yeast.
Okay, so you did oxygenate your beer.
Correct.
On a homebrew scale. Okay. Yeah, because I'm wondering, because we were talking before you came on, and Jason's had a few stuck fermentations recently, and we were wondering if oxygenating his beer, because I know you're using that wine wand, right?
The degassing wand, yeah.
The degassing wand, but do you think oxygenating direct oxygen in there, Polly, would help Jason?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They always say oxygen is your worst enemy, but I'm starting to think it's sometimes your best friend when it comes to at least the cold side of brewing.
Well, yeast needs oxygen.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think oxygen is not the enemy so much as what comes with oxygen sometimes. And so exposure to the outside world is really the problem. So
It's a weird line to draw. Like, on one hand, yeast need oxygen. On the other hand, oxygen does these horrible things to ferment.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
I mean, nobody on this webcast is a licensed professional scientist, and I'm sure a scientist could come in and explain this very clearly, but I don't know, for the average brewer out there, I think that's that's a weird message. I guess that's all I'm saying.
It is, and I think it's just a matter of getting the right balance and making sure that what you're introducing is sterile. So if you're doing it from like an oxygen tank,
Yeah.
and you're not introducing too much to where you're creating a fully aerobic response from the yeast, that they would produce too much and create some off flavors and things, I think you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look up the big mouth bubbler fermenter.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you do that. I gotta cut off for a second. I just got a delivery of all those untitled art seltzers. I gotta go check them and sign it off. I'll be right back in 5 minutes.
Cool.
Okay.
Because George, to your question, okay, how could I accomplish this? Like especially like mid fermentation. Like if I got a good fermentation going and I want to maintain it,
Right.
what would be a way I could do that?
Well, if you had a Carbstone setup like Polly does, which I have been considering, adding a Carbstone into my fermentation chain, my fermenter. If you had a Carbstone, you could introduce O2 like that through that.
So Paulie does that through a transfer from his.
No, not anymore. So he showed it. He's got a little Carbstone, which is how you carbonate the beer. You introduce CO2, and you carbonate the beer through what's called a Carbstone, and it disperses that better, more efficiently than just introducing straight CO2 through.
Okay, that's what that was. Okay, I misinterpreted.
That's what that was. Yeah. So instead of hooking up CO2, he hooks up O2 and oxygenates the unfermented wort in the same way.
Okay. So do you have something you can pull up and share that would show that on a homebrew scale? I know, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, let me think about that for a second. I could. It would take me a second though.
Sure.
But yeah, so yeah, let me hang on. Swing you guys over here. Hopefully that's not too loud. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yep, swinging. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
All right.
Your setup is showing to be versatile. Impressive.
All right. So it depends on how you want to do it. This is one of the most common ways of doing it is in your share screen. Hang on one second. This is one of the most common ways of doing it is with your let me see if I can get this blurred. Okay, you see this? This is the lid for a corny keg, and you have the Carbstone out here. And so that little stone, as you feed oxygen down into it, and usually CO2, you can see the disconnect, the gas disconnect on the top there. So if you have a gas disconnect, you can go down in and you can feed CO2. It will help to carbonate the beer faster than just hooking up to the regular gas inlet on a corny keg. So if you were to snip this line like here, and you were able to wire it up with a O2 tank through a stopper, a rubber stopper, then you could introduce.
Yeah, when I'm done with my webcast, I'll be in there.
Does that make sense, Jason? Jason, I think you're muted.
Yes, it does make sense. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean,
Those things are awesome.
Yeah, they are. But we were thinking about, Paulie, how could we modify that to have a to work in a fermenter. And what I was saying is if you were to snip that line and run it through a rubber stopper, you could hook it up to an O2 tank and then you could, run O2 into your fermenter.
Yeah, for sure.
And you can just buy the Carbstone separately.
And then you could drill a hole in your lid, and you could buy there's like a weldless fitting for the post.
Right. Yeah. So you do a weldless fitting for the post. You drill a hole in your lid and seal it up there, and then you hook it up. And you hook that up instead of CO2. You hook it up to a O2 tank, and then you can oxygenate your work. All right.
Yeah, I have one of those at home, Jason. If you want to borrow, you're more than welcome to. I'm not gonna use it for a while.
Yeah, no, I'll take you up on that. I
was
want
gonna-
to play around with this. No, I think we're on to something as far as to what's been really impacting my recent projects.
Yeah, George, where are you at? Are you in like the guest bedroom or something?
No, it's my bedroom.
He's in your bedroom.
No, I always
claiming it.
am, Polly. I'm just in a different. I'm in a different spot because I'm supposed to have a guest coming, though I'm not sure where he is at the moment. So.
Is he stuck in the rain? Traffic?
No, I don't know. We don't really have traffic around here to speak of.
No, Paulie, there is no traffic there.
Yeah, my truck. Oh, here comes your wife. I just saw the light turn on. Hi, Candy.
Paulie says hi, Candy. She says hi too.
I just all of a sudden I just see the light turn on.
Yeah.
Behind you. I was like, is that God or is it your wife?
If Candy heard that, I'm sure she'd be like,
Yeah.
it's both.
No, that's just through the headphones.
So I got something to show you guys. We just got our delivery from Untitled Art, and look at the new one that they got out there. Oh. Navel Orange Yuzu. We're gonna try it online tonight for the first time. Buddy of mine said-
Orange. What?
Yuzu. Y-U-Z-U. So whatever the hell that is, I have no idea.
It's a
But
fruit.
after looking at the picture of this, it kind of looks like a passion fruit. The way it's got looks like a little piece of corn stuck in the middle with a seed right in the middle. Almost looks like if you cut open a fresh passion fruit.
Yeah, it kinda. Yeah, it's probably in the same family. So, did you see this earlier, Polly? I wasn't sure if you were watching. This is what I'm drinking tonight. I really like.
Sisters Angria, huh?
Yeah, it's a cider from
Oh,
a place
okay.
called Coyote Hole, and I really like their can art. So, yeah,
Is that a label or is that printed?
that's a label.
Okay.
Yeah,
That is a really clean looking label.
yeah, it is. So.
So what are these questions you have to ask me, Jason? I know you said you have a bunch of questions. You see,
Yeah, I do. Okay, so you've had quite a week at the brewery, and I want to dive into that.
Oh God, yeah, let's go.
Right as you hit on the aluminum. Wow, that was perfect.
And that's stainless steel, not aluminum. Thank you very much. I had a wet metal flavor in my beer.
Yeah, no, that's no good.
So, yeah, this week has been a very trying week at the brewery. Started off with, I worked Sunday. I decided to take Monday off, which was like the first day off. I've had off in probably almost 2 months. So I didn't do much but lay around on the couch and sleep, which I'll tell you what, that was fucking amazing. And then
Yes.
and then I just wrapped up 2 back-to-back brew days where each day, whatever could gone wrong on a brew day, went wrong on a brew day, and made me reconsider, what am I doing this as a living for? Maybe it's time to get back into plumbing. I'm telling you what. Yeah, it was like that.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
So let's see where to start. Tuesday, I get here. everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Stuck mash. I broke my little master switch here for my
Hang on.
mill.
I was gonna say not your new pump.
My mill. It's a
Okay.
little waterproof thing to where I can turn it off and on. It's my day started where I'm milling my grain. I go to flip the switch and I hear a tink. And hi, nice shirt, Candy.
What he said.
Hi,
Hey,
Candy.
Polly, what
Yes,
did
what's
you
up?
say?
I said it was. I saw you walk in because I saw the light came on. It was either you or God. And nice shirt,
Oh.
by the way.
Oh, oh yes, thank you so much.
Candy
Fits you nice.
modeling the official Old School Brewing T-shirt.
Yes, I love it.
Turn
You
around.
see the colors?
Show the back.
Drink local, yeah.
Complete with Drink Local on the
Yes.
back. So,
I actually,
Paulie, how
yes.
can you get this said Old School Brewing T-shirt?
You have to come to the brewery and you have to get it from our beer tenders.
There you go.
We don't have no online sales or any of that bullshit. I am not shipping nothing.
Dude, I just rolled out the red carpet for you. You don't have
No.
this?
No promo code Polly, nothing like that. You just have to come and drink beer at the brewery. And we actually just got a bunch of new merch and we got 2 new t-shirts. One that says Freedom and Beer, that's why I'm here. It's all in green, it's got an American flag on it. And in the field where the stars would be, there's a giant shamrock.
Oh, okay.
And
Freedom
then-
in beer. That's why I'm here. I like that.
Yeah. And then there's another one which has making a pun on COVID and it says, so this is the new normal.
Okay.
And it's
So-
got what?
I was gonna say before we get back into your story, we did get a question in from the crowd here. I thought we should take a look at.
I've recently brewed a mini 6-liter batch and attempted to bitter it with mugwort and throw some Saz hops in at Whirlpool for some aroma and flavor. My question is, have any of you had experience with gruits or alternative bittering additions? How did it turn out?
Well, first of all, what's gruits? And I've done a couple alternative bittering things.
Okay.
I saw a thread on one of the Facebook homebrew pages, and they were talking about there's this herb that they use in the UK, I believe. I can't think of the name of it, but it's like an alternative to like a bittering hop. Did a little bit of research on it. It was kind of cool, but I would still use traditional hops if you have them. I mean, doing something like that, that's only on if you need to do it. You're on a pinch and you don't got it. And there's no local home brew store within 10, 15 minutes of you. I would do that if I had some laying around, but I don't see why anybody would have some of that stuff laying around. But that's just me.
So, this is actually really interesting, and thank you, Carl, for bringing this up. I'm going to look this up. So apparently gruits is an herb mixture for bittering and flavoring beer, popular before hops. So it's kind of an older style, more historic style. It's popular in the Netherlands, Belgium, and westmost Germany. And some of the common herbs are mugwort, like you said, sweet gale, yarrow, ground ivy, horehound, and heather. Which
You think heather
with. Gotta be careful with heather.
Yeah. She could be mean. She could be real mean, I tell you.
She can be poisonous, is what she can be.
Yeah, I know, right?
Other adjunct beers include ginger berries, juniper berries, ginger, caraway, aniseed, nutmeg, and cinnamon. But I think that's for more just adjuncts and things like that. But this is interesting. So, I mean, Paulie very succinctly put it out there. No, I don't. We've not brewed with gruits before, but it's definitely something I'm gonna have to take a look into and maybe put into a future small batch. But Paulie, you said you've bittered with something other than hops before. What was that?
That was that heather. I used heather
Okay.
before.
So you have done it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So how'd that go?
I don't remember. It was 10 years ago.
Okay.
I'd have to. I would have to refer to my notes, and were they silver notes? I highly doubt it.
The best notes aren't. Carl, sorry we're not able to give you a ton of feedback here.
New Zealand, nice.
Yeah.
This is awesome. New Zealand on the webcast.
Check
We
it
Cheers
did.
to you, Carl.
Yeah, cheers. We made it to the other side of the equator. Past the equator.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but yeah, Carl, tune in on a future episode, and I'm gonna do some more research into Gruit's, and maybe we can have a conversation about it.
Love to
Sounds
have you on the
great.
show.
Yeah.
Actually, I have some questions. Hey, Carl, do you no chill brew down where you're at?
Ooh, that is
a good
very
question.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Because that's where I learned about it from was Australia and New
Australia,
Zealand.
yeah.
Yeah, Polly and Jason did a whole experiment with No Chill Brewing back not too long ago, and turned out pretty well for you guys, didn't it?
It was
Oh,
good
yeah.
success. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually during COVID for the most part until I got the job here I was exclusively doing it.
Okay.
Even when I built that real nice rig for Uncle Rick, I was still no chill brewing on his rig. It was nice. I didn't have to set up the chiller or any of that bullshit. Right to the keg.
All of Uncle Rick's batches were all no chill.
My batches on Uncle Rick's rig were no chill.
Oh,
When he did his, we still hooked up the counterflow chiller, immersion chiller,
Okay.
for the pre-chiller and all that. We did that, but when I was brewing on his rig, I didn't do any of that stuff because I was experimenting with the no chill.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize for my tardiness. We had a bar full here because the local high school girls volleyball team was at the playoffs. They were going to. They're having their sectional playoff game, so this bar was full of parents because with COVID and all that, you're only allowed to. I don't think they were allowing people inside the gym, so we were hosting. We're hosting the games on our TVs here. Good way to make quick, some money real quick and hang out with some parents, and
Sure.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And then I had a buddy come and then Mike Stevenson came to look at my busted ass panel, which we fixed now.
Oh, good.
Uh,
So what? So your switch blew on you, which sucks. So then, did you have to direct wire up your mill to get it running, or how'd you get it running?
well, no, actually, when I pulled that face cover off, there's a regular switch behind it,
Oh,
so
okay.
I was able to use that.
Okay.
That was the start of the brew day, and then halfway through the brew day, because I was doing an imperial stout, it called for 50 pounds of DME, and I had a big 50-pound bag of dry malt extract, and I went to go pour that into the boil, and well, Jason, I sent you the picture of the mess that I have.
Oh no. Did you overboil?
It's overboiling is an understatement.
Oh.
Yeah.
I had a hell of a mess to clean up. I mean, a hell of a mess.
This picture doesn't do it justice. You can just see the residue on the sides of the boil kettle. You can see a puddle and you can see a small puddle underneath it. I think it was a lot worse than what we see here.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, whatever boils over when you drop DME in is the stickiest substance. It makes napalm jealous.
Right? Yeah, it's the grossest stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You got that picture, Jason? Share it.
I am not prepared. Okay, I'll share it. It's
All right.
gonna give me about 45 seconds.
Okay. So then, besides that, then brew day number 2 started off real smooth, and I'm working, and all of a sudden I get to the point where it's time to turn. I fill up my heating element. I fill up the boil kettle just enough to fill above my heating element, so I can turn on my boil kettle heating elements. I blow the main breaker on the box.
Oh no.
And my circuit panel is on the other side of the building, not even in the actual brewery per se.
Oh man.
So I had to run back, turn it on, play with it, long story short, I ended up having to use my HLT control PID or controller with changing the cables and one element, which I ended up transferring fluid like, I don't know, probably 4 times between my boil kettle and my hot liquor tank. But that being said, my gravity was like 8 points above target. So I nailed it. Had a shitty brew day, but I nailed it.
Hey, you know?
Yeah, look at that. No, that's just the bottom.
Oh, man.
Imagine the whole top just like that all the way around.
Exactly.
And the floor in front of it. And well, that was just a picture I sent to Tina. I was like, I don't know if I ever told you, but I hate dry malt extract. Oh yeah. I've decided if I ever do this again, I'm going to use liquid malt extract.
Yeah, less volatile. Yeah.
And totally, yeah, I'm not going to use DME anymore. Nope. I'm abandoned to that.
So Carl got back to us, said they purchased some bladders, hot. If you can pull that up, Jason. So he purchased some hot bladders, and because of the occasional water restrictions they get in Auckland, and Polly, that's what you said was the original, kind of driving force behind the no chill method.
Yep.
Because that's what they do down there. That's exactly. It's and actually, if it was for because of Kevin Promise, the president of the Joliet Brewers Guild, like right when COVID started and we were on lockdown. I was like, I want to brew, but I can't because of this and that. And he sent me an article about it with a website. Oh, I can't think of the name of it, but it's got Denny Kahn on it and another guy. Experimental Brew, I think it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's called Experimental Brew. And they did a whole 2-hour episode just on no chill.
Just on no chill, yeah.
Yeah. And what's that guy's name again? Carl. If you have a corny keg, that will work too. You don't have to spend the money on the bladders because that's exactly what I do. Is I just throw it in a corny keg and let it sit overnight, and then pressure transfer everything from here on out.
Right.
So it's
seems
actually
like he already got them, but I'd be curious to see what your experience with that is, Carl, because my understanding of those bladders is they're kind of designed to disperse heat a little quicker than like a metal corny keg would be, Polly. So I wonder if it ends up cooling down a little bit faster than just dumping it into a corny keg.
okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, guys, we've been talking about this for a month. We finally got somebody from the Southern Hemisphere on the show.
We did.
Yes,
Welcome,
we did.
Carl. Welcome.
So, yeah.
Any more questions? We'd love to answer them, buddy.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe something that's not about, centuries-old brewing techniques.
We went over my my home brewing sheets, or my homebrew judging sheets, and now we're talking about
Well,
no
Jason,
chill.
the Drunk Monk guys, that I noticed that they at the bottom your total score was 34, but at the top it said it was 33. So
Yeah,
what was the actual official score you got?
So 33
and a
was
half.
the average. Was the average between two score sheets? One judge scored 34, the other scored 32.
Got it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
But I will
Yeah.
say, Polly, I think I've heard you say it before. Is anything over 30 is a really good score, really respectable score.
You know what? I'm happy with anything over 25. To be honest with you, I don't think I've ever scored anything lower than maybe 27, and that was my very first homebrew competition, 11 years ago, when the world famous Brew and Grow in Bolingbrook, Illinois, they had a little mini in-store competition, and this is a funny story with that one. You'll never guess who the judge was on that competition. We've had him on the show before.
Marty Naglich.
Nachel. Mr. Marty
Naglich.
Mr. Marty Nachel. Yep.
Oh, I was
He
right.
was
Okay. All right. Cool.
he was my judge, and I'm like, that was talk about totally fitting. You know, a guy that
Yeah.
you only met once, and you're finally brewing beer, and he's actually judging your beer. To me, that was like almost full circle.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, but besides that, that's my week's brew day in a nutshell. I mean, it don't sound like much, but it got me stressed out for 2 days. I'll tell you that.
I bet. Did you end up solving your salt problem?
Yes,
How'd you do that?
I just used Epsom. I didn't have any table salt here per
Okay.
se. So I'm gonna do a little bit more research. I think what I may have done, I don't think when I did the salts, I don't think I excluded chalks.
Okay.
So I think that's
Well,
where
but salt's not a chalk.
yeah, but only been, I don't know, like two styles I've ever had a salt and an Epsom salt
Okay, so
addition.
to give everybody a little bit of a backstory on this, Polly sent me a message earlier this week asking about the difference between salt and Epsom salt, because your recipe called for both of them, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I refreshed my memory on it, and salt is NaCl, it's sodium chloride, and we'll add those elements to the beer. Epsom salt is a little bit more complex, but basically it's magnesium sulfate, and it will add that to the beer. So you only had the magnesium sulfate, the Epsom salts on hand.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't add the sodium chloride, you may I don't know if you're measuring your pH, but your pH might be a little bit off, and you're gonna have because you might be creating something that's a little bit more basic than you're intending to do, because that's the kind of things that, especially sodium, but the chloride is going to add in there as well. It's going to make it slightly more acidic.
Actually, my pH numbers were right on target.
Were they? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then how much were you adding of salt?
You know what? Hold on. I'm going to go get the brew sheet. Just hanging on
Okay.
the fermenter. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Where's your guy, man?
Yeah, I know. It's all right.
Wah, wah.
I know. Well, I'm not the social coordinator. That's why it's Polly. So.
All right, Paulie, you're rehired.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
All right. So this is my Millrace Porter, which is one of our flagships. I'm sure Jason's tried this before. So it calls for 71.93 grams calcium chloride, 44.08 grams of salt in the mash, and then 30.06 gypsum. And then I know I had another one that called for the same thing, but it said table salt and calcium chloride.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just, when here I am just trying to do it on the fly, and it was kind of funny because I actually reached out on Facebook. We have all the Pro JBG guys. We have a private messenger group that we just we discuss amongst ourselves. Like, it's mainly for like, hey, I forgot to order a bag. I'm short a bag of grain or a brick of yeast. Anybody got one till I can get mine in? And it's more of a trading deal between us. So I asked around, and actually the only person that actually really gave me an answer was Kyle Bester. And then you already responded, so it actually started a conversation between Kyle and I. And I think I actually taught him a little bit about it too, because he didn't even know, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So it was actually really cool. I was very happy, and thank you for the information.
No problem.
I'm gonna probably end up going out and buying a big thing of Morton salt and keep it down.
That's all you need. Yeah. Yeah, I was telling Jason, I was throwing you under the bus a little bit with Jason, Polly, I'm not going to lie. Because I told you, I was like, just go out to the grocery store. You just need salt, And I think you were in the middle of your bad brew days. So you're like, screw it. I'm just going forward. And and which now I understand. But at the time, I said to Jason, salt's more accessible than plutonium in 1985. So you could have just picked it up. But yeah, of all of the things to run out of, like you can't just go to the grocery store and find gypsum. But
True.
salt, is a little easier. So
Yeah, well, like I said, when you're in the middle of brew day, you got pumps are rolling and kettles
Yeah.
flowing. You're like, I can't walk away. And
no,
actually,
I totally get it.
I mean, we keep some table salt in the brewery for when people order food, but the numbers that I needed, I would have emptied one of those shakers,
Right.
and
Well,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna do that to my customers and everybody here,
Sure.
So it was just.
Yeah, you talked about your customers. I pictured you ripping open like 1,000 of those little salt packets.
Smack in the back of it, trying to get every little bit out.
Yeah.
No, not going to do that.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, and so I'm back full of status again.
Good.
I went from last week having 3 empty fermenters, 1 full of the milkshake bullshit, and 3 empty ones. So now I'm full up again. Everything's full. Today was like music to my ears. They came in. All 3 of my fermenters were fermenting. They were all bubbling at the same time in unison.
Nice.
One was wrapping up. This one right here, and number 4, which is our Wildcat Cream Ale. That's almost done. Oh, just bubbled. That one right there has got our porter in it. I did that last night. I was picking up a little bit. Yeah, it was kind of started chugging this morning. And the one on the far end, my number 1, my little guy, I came in that morning. That thing was. Have you ever been to a brewery? You look inside the brew house, and that bucket is just bubbling away like high, like real high croys, and got sanitizer bubbling out of it, shooting all over the place,
Bubbles
making a mess of
everywhere.
my. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
I don't think I could ever see a high croissant like that ever in my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that was total high croissant right there. Don't mind me, I'm dumping out my coffee. I had to make some coffee
worries.
this morning. Yeah. It's kind of nice with my coffee maker right next to my desk here.
So I don't know if I showed this earlier, but this is that cider.
Look how
that's
clean
crystal.
that is.
That's crystal clear.
I'm not sure
Where's
if they
that from?
actually filter it, but it's super clear.
Yeah, hold it up.
The
glass.
cider? The glass?
Yeah, bring it closer. Yeah. I can see you through that.
I know, right?
So
Wow.
Yeah.
I can totally see you too.
yeah.
Yeah. So they so it's all fresh fruit, not from concentrate, and it's down really near here. But I don't know if they filter it or not. So
I'm guessing so.
yeah.
I mean, could you
guessing
get that
so,
clarity
too.
without it? Potentially, but
You'd have to
I
be
don't know.
really
That's
on
just-
point. Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of World Flock, a lot of Biofine.
Right, exactly. Some isinglass thrown in there, Irish
Yeah.
moss.
Maybe a few rackings.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah. Secondary, third and dairy, fourth and dairy, fifth and dairy, sixth and dairy. So Jason, when are we
Yes.
going to brew this amber recipe like we discussed earlier this week? We need to get that on the schedule.
Yeah, we do. So, George, do we have your blessing to brew this without you here? Thank you. All right, Polly, let's do it.
All right, we'll set up a date.
Okay.
But probably like 3 weeks from now, because I know
Yep.
tomorrow can't do it this weekend for sure, because
Okay.
we have our very first bottle release at the brewery this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Ah, okay.
Barrel aged barley wine called a Strong Personality in a Buffalo
Okay.
Trace barrel. So I have 188 bottles to dispose of this weekend, and I'm praying that they all go in probably a matter of 2 hours. I really want to look out my front door and see a line of people wrap around my building. I would love to see that. And especially if people are in chairs and drinking at the same time, I might have to go drink with them.
I give you
Yeah.
my blessing on one condition.
Yeah.
I need a snow globe.
You got to come pick it up.
Consider it
Are you guys doing it
good
on
response.
the Route 66 system, or are you doing it homebrew style?
That's a good question, Jason. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Okay. Well, how about we call an audible here? Would it be an option to brew this at the world famous Brew and Grow in
66?
Bolingbrook, Illinois?
Ooh, I would have to pull some strings.
Yeah.
Let me talk to Mike because
Okay.
that rig is buried in the back behind the store.
Ah.
Ever
Okay. All right.
since COVID, it's been buried, and I would literally have to dig through it to get to it, go
Okay.
through
Well-
it all.
Maybe you guys should pilot it on either Jason or Polly's system, and then if
Mine.
it's up to snuff, then put it up on Route 66 and feed it to the masses.
I think you got the right idea.
Or we can
Yeah.
just say, fuck it, we're going to put it on the Route 66 system and feed it to the masses anyway.
You could do that too. You could do
Well,
that too.
listen. I think that's naturally where this is going to go. And Polly, if I remember correctly, Route 66 has not had an amber ale since you've been the brewer. Is that correct?
That is incorrect. My Ann Burr.
And Burr.
You remember that? Remember that picture that I sent you? I said, "Hey guys, here's
Ann
like
Burr,
Crystal
yeah.
60 to you," and George is like, "I don't think so. You were lied to." And then I showed them a picture of the bag.
That was that one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
okay.
Okay. Okay.
Which,
All right, so if you make it on there, the only thing I ask, if your owners are okay with it, is have it, if you put it in a bottle or on your menu, say in collaboration with a nice place to brew.
Yes.
oh, that would not be a problem. That would not be a problem at all.
All right.
I mean, well, see, here's that new seltzer, everybody. Looking pretty good. What's that? What is that, Jason?
I'm showing off. Look at that layer of sediment at the bottom of that.
Yeah,
Oh.
where'd that come from?
The can.
What is that?
This is a professional
Pipeworks.
Really?
Well, that explains it. Pipeworks. Bunch of hacks. I rank them up. Oh, drop the can. I rank them up there with Phase 3, Hot Butcher.
Whoa.
Yeah, I said it, Jason.
Whoa.
Damn. Okay, fighting words
Oh,
there.
wow. Yeah, that is, yeah. You're talking about two of the most sought after beers here in the Chicagoland area.
And overrated, in my opinion.
Ouch.
Wow.
Gonna
Okay.
leave a mark.
Yeah.
We all
Listen.
we all know Paulie's very
Listen.
vocal on his
That's true.
views. The way I look at beers, and I
Well,
just
they say controversy creates cash, and maybe that's what we've done tonight.
yeah. Come everybody, come down to Wilmington, drink my beer, keep me busy.
Yeah.
Drink my beer, pay for it,
You
and
hear,
then tell
you
me
hear
how bad it
these
is.
losers like
Yeah. Hey, see here, I say that as I have, I don't know, 90 some odd gallons of some milkshake bullshit. I don't know, probably like 20 feet behind me. Which I don't know if I talked about this last week. I got some of my flavorings in from one of the puree people out there that I use, and I'm just gonna put it this way: I tried every way possible to hate on this beer. I can't. I really can't. I've actually fallen in love with it. It's really good, and it's just a matter of the right puree to use.
Does it still remember that it's beer? That's the only thing.
I can speak to that because I've tried this too. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
A good milkshake will still remember that it's beer.
Is
You know?
this? I mean, my first reaction to it was how well balanced it was.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well, and then you tried it when it was under attenuated, Jason.
that's true. I
Yeah.
did.
I mean, it was only at like 4%, and then after, I got some advice from our friends over at Mad Hatchet. Thank you very much, Sean McTee, if you're watching.
Yeah.
He said to throw some fermented USO4 at it, and I did that, and it shooted up another 3-4 3 whole percent. And now I'm
Okay.
looking at like a 7.2% milkshake over a 4% milkshake.
Oh, 04, not 05? Why 04?
I don't know why he said oh 04.
Okay.
Probably because oh 04 is not as clean. At least some hazy Hesters, because oh 04 is the English, correct? Is it USO4 or SO4 from Fermentus? Is that their English or is it their Irish ale yeast?
US04,
SO4.
US04, right? Or
Yeah.
SO4?
I think it's just SO4.
SO4?
Oh,
Definitely.
SO4,
Definitely European, I believe.
safe
Is it
ale, good for English ales. So yeah, English is more of
English ale
English
yeast?
ale.
okay.
All right.
Yeah. So
Oh, have any of you guys ever heard of Huckleberry? I know Jason
the
has.
fruit?
I have.
Yeah, I've been wanting to make a beer with Huckleberry for the longest time because I'm a big
Cool.
Tombstone fan.
Well,
And
you're gonna have to come
and I
up to
and
me.
I want to call it "I'm Your Huckleberry" because yeah.
I have Huckleberry coffee at the brewery.
Oh, nice.
Look at that.
We got I actually, Jason, I got this from your partner that you partnered up with for the Pink Boot Society beer.
Okay.
Sarah.
Nice.
She just gave me that tin, and I made a pot of it today, and oh my god, I don't know if did you smell the stuff, Jason? It smells
Yeah,
so
it was
fruity.
amazing. Yeah.
It just smells so fruity. But hey guys, I need to use the restroom and go have a smoke. I'll be right back. You guys talk amongst yourself for a second.
All right. So, oh, hey, all right.
He hit mute.
All right, cool.
Just us. All right. I'm running out of things to talk about.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, again, I apologize for our guest not being able to arrive tonight. I'm assuming he was held up somewhere.
George is officially fired from his role as
social director.
as social director of A Nice Place to Brew. Yes, Paulie is rehired.
Polly is so
that's
much
okay.
better at that than I am.
Yes.
But it is.
Well,
what
he's
it
better
is.
than me too. It's been a tremendous contribution.
Absolutely.
But no, we say kudos to Unionville Brewing. They're in Unionville, Virginia. They're still well worth checking out for anybody who's anywhere around the Virginia area. Head out to Unionville and check them out. And if you want to make a day out of it, George, what other breweries are within a decent drive of Unionville?
So in a decent drive of Unionville, you have Iron Pipe Brewing down in Orange, and you have up in Culpeper, you have Far Gone. And then once you get over into Fredericksburg, there's probably about half a dozen over there is Blue and Gray, and a bunch of other ones I can't remember the name of right now. So there's a bunch over there, but we like to patronize the ones that are out here since they're a little bit less frequented. Not being a little bit farther out. So, but I'll tell you, rural Virginia is definitely no slouch when it comes to craft beer. All three of those that I mentioned are really very solid breweries. So definitely would recommend that. Yeah.
Come on out to Virginia.
Yeah.
All right.
And Carl, come on, man. Have we ever used New Zealand hops? What brewer hasn't used a New Zealand hop at some point? It's you guys are just go gangbusters for hops and make some of the best ones that I've used. So yeah,
and they are widely available here in North America.
They really are. Yeah, we have a ton of them here. And I sometimes wonder if they're New Zealand varietals that are grown in the U.S.
That's a good. I never thought of that. It could be.
I haven't thought about that, too much, but yeah, we definitely have a bunch of New Zealand, at least New Zealand styles here. So I guess I'd ask the flip side: do you use primarily New Zealand hops, or do you use the UK and English hops? How widely available are they in turn? So,
And you can expand that and say the German noble hops too.
I imagine they're there just because they're so iconic. But, when it comes to like Neo Mexicanus or Neo Mexicalis, rather, or Cascade or,
Sure.
EKG or some of those other ones, I wonder how available they are down that way.
Ready for another homebrewing question?
Yes.
Brian Robert, thank you so much for joining the webcast. How do you all cut down on the bitterness when adding fruit to beer? Well, my immediate response is I always use fruit in beer with a degree of caution because of all the things that it can bring. So one of the things that I did with Polly over recent weekends is when we added, this is not fruit, but I think the same rule applies. We added extract to a beer to try to create a certain fruit flavor. So what we did is we drew a small sample out of the already fermented beer, poured it into a glass, and then just added small little ratios of the extract until we found the balance that we want.
Right.
I think that's a great rule of thumb to use for fruit because the same rules apply.
Yeah, and then once you figure that out for just a little shot glass, 1 or 2 ounce thing, then you scale it up to whatever's left in your secondary and throw that in. The other thing I would say is if you are getting bitterness from your fruit, I'd be curious, Brian, if you could say what kind of fruit you've had experience with that has given you that. But one of the ways you could balance it is shoot for a slightly higher final gravity beer, and a slightly more malt forward beer. Both of those are going to give you the sensation of sweetness, which can help to balance any bitterness that you're getting from the fruit. If you're putting fruit into like an IPA or something like that, it does become a little bit more difficult. Well, now you're hitting in Jason's wheelhouse there.
Not for beer making.
But okay, yeah, blueberries, they can be a little tart. So again, I would definitely try to maybe shoot for maybe a little bit more malt forward beer, or slightly higher final gravity. Or if you really want to go a little bit more aggressive with it, you could actually add some lactobacillus. You could add some, not lactobacillus, you don't want to sour it, but milk sugar. Lactose is what I'm trying to think of. You can add lactose to your beer. Not so much that you're creating a milkshake type beer, but just enough to raise that final gravity and create the sensation of sweetness for there.
Well said. Thank you again, Brian, for the question.
Mm-hmm.
We are always taking home brewing questions here on A Nice Place to Brew.
Yeah.
So leave us a comment, even if it's outside of the regular show time. If you do comment on an episode after a broadcast, we will see it, and we will respond to it.
Yeah,
so
on
bring on the questions.
YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, if you send us a message, we'll bring it up and we'll answer your question.
Or you can just come down to the brewery and talk to me, and I'll talk to you personally.
Or you can do that.
You can go to the world famous Route 66 Old School Brewing in Wilmington, Illinois. Mr. Pauly is the head brewer, and he is there. So
he's almost always there. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
I don't think I got to take a day off to get a day off.
I had to take a day off to get a day off.
And sometimes when I take those days off, all hell breaks loose.
Oh, here we go. We got another homebrew. Question. All right. Brian Robert, a follow-up question. What are your thoughts on racking to a secondary? Okay, this is a great question because, because I do feel like my opinion of this evolved over the course of my homebrewing career. When George and I got started, we did a secondary with every single batch that we made. And the thought of it was because, we're in a homebrewing setting and you don't have filtering techniques of any kind, doing a secondary is a way to get clearer beer, which is a fair statement. But that brings a series of problems with it that I didn't know until after I was, more versed in homebrewing, such as adding oxygen to beer and, potentially contaminating it, which you're running the risk of at any time that you go to a secondary. So, a rule of thumb that I have learned over my course is doing a secondary for an ale is for the most part unnecessary, unless you're running short on your on achieving your final gravity. Like if you're just not reaching it and you need to transfer it to restart the fermentation and get your gravity down by a point or so, that's a fair thing to do. Besides that, it's probably going to do you more harm than good than to go to a secondary. That rule does not apply for lagers, though.
Agreed.
Because for lagers, you always are going to plan a secondary. You're always going to plan a diacetyl rest. And then you should plan a gradual downturn in your temperature until you get down to your lager temperature.
The only caveat to what you would said, which is spot on, Jason, is if you're going to do an adjunct in post boil, post
good call.
fermentation, don't do that on top of a yeast cake. Transfer to a secondary. Add your adjunct. Add your fruit. Your your wood. If you're going to do like a bourbon barrel cologne with a spiral or something like that, do that in a secondary.
That is an excellent point. Paulie, any thoughts to add?
I agree with everything. The only reason why I personally I like secondary is underlying health issues because I have gout, and yeast is the ingredient in beer that makes gout flare up.
Oh, okay.
So I would always secondary it to try and get as much yeast to drop out as possible. Because even when I secondaried, you would actually see just a little microfilm of a yeast cake on the bottom of your secondary fermenter, which to me would always be better. I'm like, hey, look, there's more suspended yeast no longer in the beer. My feet aren't going to hurt in 2 days after drinking this.
Right. So, Polly, have you ever, because of that, have you considered filtering your beer?
I've thought about it, but just the equipment needed, everything, I just didn't really want to take the extra steps to spend money on it.
Okay.
I mean, I could have made like a Randall-esque type thing to filter it out, but I mean, Randall's we can have a whole episode on the pros and cons of using a Randall.
Okay.
If you guys know if everybody knows what a Randall is, I guess I should say this. Anybody that doesn't know what a Randall is, pretty much you're just taking a filtering device and you're running your beer through it and filtering everything out of it as possible. But then you take the chance of oxygenating, infecting everything else we're all afraid of as home brewers. But then on the pro side, you don't worry about it as much to a point. But they got their pros and cons. I'm kind of for it. I like it because it will help filter out some of all that trube and everything else, because there's always that little bit of sediment at the bottom of your carboy after a secondary. Then the beautiful thing I like about it is, like, the one thing I always hated as a home brewer is when you're transferring into your secondary, some poor asshole's got to sit there and hold that auto siphon and slowly drop it below the level. But when you're in a secondary, you just drop that fucker to the bottom, pump it a couple times, and you walk away, and you're good.
Yeah, that's true. So Carl asked a follow-up question to our conversation. Is what's the reason benefits not to lager on the yeast cake? And the primary reason for that is as you change the temperature so dramatically on the yeast cake, the yeast can release some, when they, especially as your temperature gets down closer and closer to freezing temperature, the yeast can release chemicals that will create off flavors in your beer. So racking off of that yeast cake into a clean secondary prior to crashing that temperature down slowly will help to prevent that. You'll still have a little bit in suspension, like we're talking about, but not enough to create any kind of organic off flavors that you would get from the yeast.
Here's another reason for it: clarity. Because that's a big
True.
reason for not only going to a secondary, but also the cold crashing process, which we're talking about here. The goal of that is to make your lager beer as clear as possible, and both of those are ways of achieving that.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. But so I mean, there's a bunch of different reasons, but bottom line is if you're doing a lager, you're going to want to look into doing that on a secondary. Or if you have a fermenter like I do, that has the ability to cut off the yeast, like if you have a valve at the bottom that you can cut off the yeast at the bottom, that can allow you to go from primary to secondary without having to actually transfer your beer and risk exposure.
Yeah.
So they're not the cheapest things in the world, but as you're considering upgrading your brew equipment, getting a conical where you can close the valve and cut off your yeast from your beer is a good upgrade to have.
So, Paulie, back to the previous topic about secondary. Do you have any notes that you would like to add about dry hopping?
Like as? What do you mean?
So from using a secondary to not using a secondary, because so many beers out there right now, between the milkshakes and the New Englands and so many of these styles, the dry hopping process is essential to it. So do you have any notes that home brewers should always abide by on that front?
Let me think. Dry hopping. Always make sure you cold crash. 'Cause that's a big thing because you can always clog up posts and poppets. I'd probably say cold crash is probably the biggest one because that will make all the hop tube fall to the bottom. You give it a good 24-hour cold crash and you'll get most of that. I don't know if we've all been there after you got a nice heavily dry hop secondary beer and you're trying to rack it in there and you see nothing but little hot particles just floating down that tube going into the keg. And then next thing you know, you go to, like say you do in New England, and next thing you know, you're going to pour your first beer and you got a clogged dip tube. And here you are on the fly at a beer fest in downtown Joliet. And
I've done that twice.
And then you're running around.
Sucked.
You're trying to do everything possible to get that clear as like doing a beer fountain. I don't know, beer fountain. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. That's what I'll do.
Done it. I've done that to try to clear out that dip tube.
I had one beer one time at the Frankfurt Bluegrass Fest that Brian, my old partner that I used to brew with, he did such a heavily hopped. Hold on, guys. Doing my webcast.
Okay. Hey, so Brian, this is an interesting thing, and Brian, I'd love to understand more about this. So he says he uses magnets so he can drop the dry hop in without opening. And I'm wondering, do you put one magnet in the muslin bag and one magnet on the side of the container and then take the magnet off so it drops in at the right time? Because if so, that's friggin' genius and I'm stealing that. But I'm curious what is going on with that.
Oh, that's classic. Sorry for the interruption, guys. My bartender's like, "Are you on the phone?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Okay, you're fine." Because actually, my bartender is not normally here on Thursday nights, so
okay.
she's my night does she work? Oh yeah, she's my Tuesday night girl.
Okay.
Every time I think I got her all these girls' schedule figured out, they change it up on me. It's like 3:30, 3:45. Like, oh, I'm going to see Lauren today, and Haley walks in, and I'm like, huh?
All right, Jason, you gotta change it to that. So he confirmed that's what he's doing, and I'm confirming right now I'm stealing that because that's brilliant. I love that idea because I do have the conical, like I said, so I can rig that up let the primary go through, remove the magnet, drop it in, and I don't have to open my fermenter in order to, be able to go from primary to secondary with dry hop. So that's a brilliant idea.
That
Man,
is.
homebrewing brings out the MacGyver in so many people, and I love
Yes.
it. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And I'm MacGyvering everything daily down here, you know?
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny. You know, it's like I was talking to Dave Campbell from On Tour Brewing the other day, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, where you're at, you're just like a one step above the home brewer. I'm like, yeah, pretty much, but my beer's being sold and I'm getting a paycheck to do it. So, you know, I finally made it. Finally a pro brewer. I never thought that ever happened in the 11 years of being a home brewer. So, and I'm fucking killing it down here. I think Jason can attest to it. He's seen how it's going down here. And George, can't wait for you to travel because I know if your first stop isn't here, I will judge you and I'll probably beat you. So
noted. But Polly, we had no doubt when you told us that you were getting this gig that you were gonna just knock their socks off. So absolutely,
yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, guys.
Shall we?
I think we
yeah,
shall.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do the webcast here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're seeing this outside of our normal broadcast, welcome. Thank you so much for viewing. Go to our YouTube page and hit like and subscribe. It helps the show. We do our webcast every Thursday here at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and all of our past episodes are available on our YouTube page, so check us out. Our audio podcast is available on the podcasting platforms under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew. It's available everywhere. Our website is www.aniceplacetobrew.com. Our social media links are A Nice Place to Brew and Nice Place to Brew. We will be back here next Thursday at the same time with our shows available on Facebook and YouTube. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the home brewing questions as well. And before we sign off, we raise a glass one last time and we say, it takes a lot of good beer to make great beer. Cheers, everyone.
guys.